Hi, TestComplete community, and welcome to another great session for the TestComplete Community Day 2021. And our next speaker is the Senior Test Lead and Test Manager in the TestComplete Quality Assurance team, Alexandr Gubarev. Hi, Alexandr, how are you?
Hi, thanks. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. Our next session will be on regression testing of performance. Is this right?
Yeah, that's correct. And I think that it will be very helpful for all our customers, especially for TestComplete users.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's a very interesting topic, I think, too. Cool. So could you tell us a bit more about your role? Because as far as the title goes, looks like you do a lot of things and have a lot of responsibilities. Is it so?
Yeah, as you said, I'm a test manager in SmartBear and also QA lead of TestComplete and the products of TestComplete family, like Test Execute and Test Left. And also I'm a QA lead of some internal products, like the products which have never seen by our users.
Wow, that's interesting because I didn't know about that. So we have some secret quality assurance products that you manage. That's just awesome. Cool. So, and could you tell us, like, when did you come to SmartBear?
I've been here about 13 years when we were called Automated QA, and I've worked on a large variety of products: TestComplete, LoadComplete, ReadyAPI, AQTime, and many others.
Wow, so you have a lot of experience not only in TestComplete but a lot of other SmartBear products. And my last question is, do you have any special message for the TestComplete community?
Yeah, actually, I appreciate the SmartBear community a lot, and I do my best for helping answering the question in community. And also, maybe you have seen my video record extension for TestComplete. It's also part of my contribution into the community. So if you meet me in any conference, feel free to ask me about any of SmartBear product or overall QA related questions.
Sure. Great. And I just thought that it could be a great idea that we link actually the extension that you mentioned into the post so that more people can see it and get and use this great product.
Thanks.
Yep. Thank you so much. So let's move to the session.
Let's talk about the regression testing of performance. We firstly need to understand what does it mean, regression testing of performance. Usually the performance testing is how many resources does the app consumes. The resources can be it can be CPU, it can be memory, or mostly frequently it's about how much time the operations consume. What does regression testing mean? Usually it means that something works not worse than previously. It's because usually people are very disappointed that previously it works fine and now it works worse. So the goal of this video to make you know how we deal with the regression testing of performance issues in SmartBear, and how our team, TestComplete QA team, creates regression tests against performance, and which tools do we use. Okay, in our case, what do we have? We had already implemented functionality of TestComplete, and one day we understand that we have some issues with slowness of some functionality. we had a lot of functional tests which are written on TestComplete. So our team usually prefer to use TestComplete to test TestComplete. Actually, it works great. We figure out that why not to use TestComplete to understand if some functionality works slower when we expect it. After some times, we go to our product manager, and he gives us the time to create some set of tests which will analyze the performance of some functions. So how fast some functionality works, and do we have any time degradations. So what we do? First of all, we need to define the most popular and most critical scenarios. Of course, in your application, you have very different scenarios, but some of them maybe are not so popular. And for example, if it's the action used only one time a week, maybe it's not so critical and user can wait for 5 minutes 1 week, but he can be very frustrated and disappointed if the action which he used twice a minute will consume 20 seconds, for example. So for these critical actions, which is better to when we will be discussed with the product owner, we want to understand what the expectations of the users regarding to the performance of these actions. So how long these actions can be processed. After that, we divide the expectations on 3 groups. First of all, it's something called good. It's what fits the user expectations and above these expectations. After that, it's acceptable. So we can pay attention on it, but it's not so critical to fix this. Another one is not acceptable. So we know that we have such problem, but and in future maybe we will fix them, but it's not what we pay attention and they're bad. So it's what we need to fix first. But the problem is that we already can be here in not acceptable, or we can be here. Let's imagine now we have 10 seconds and next release we have degradation for 1 second, so we have 11 seconds. Is it a good time to create a bug if we have degradation for 1 second in this in some scenario, but we already have some very bad time consuming for some scenarios? Maybe it's not so good idea to create such a bug. So we need to define some criteria to create a bug. For us, it will be moving from one interval to the worst interval. Let's imagine we have 5 seconds now and it's good, and next time we have 16. It's from good to acceptable. Maybe it's time to create a bug with normal priority. If we had 5 seconds for the operation and now we have 45 seconds, it's not acceptable, and so we create a critical bug or something like this. So after that, we need to define which tools we will use for this and which exactly actions we need to perform for this testing. First of all, we need to perform the test. So something needs to click and measure the results. For this purpose, we use TestComplete. Also, we need some database where we can store the results and get the results. For this purpose, I personally suggest to use Google Sheets, we can see further how it works and why we choose it. Of course, you can put the results in your SQL database or some local file, but in this case, you will have some disadvantages. But again, let's move on and see it further. Also, you need to have some logic when your test need to understand that this is time to create a bug. And also you need to have some good report with the charts for your management. So it seems that for us, it's possible to use only two tools for this, TestComplete and Google Sheets. What Google Sheets can provide you for performance testing? First of all, it has tabular data storage, so you can very easy to put your data here. Also, you have really easy customizable reports and very low level of efforts to maintain and create such reports. Also, it has embedded way how to create a web service from your Google Sheet document. So it can be easily used to get the result and put it into the file and give you some feedback. But let's see it in real demo. Also, let's see what TestComplete can provide you performance testing. First of all, we have special aqPerfomance object. It actually used to measure the time. Let's see how you can use it. Okay, I have a template with a full function. It put in a loop, and in a loop we starting measurement and push the every result of measurement into the sum array. After that, we get the average of this of all these measurements. So let's get a GET request from SmartBear.com 4 times or 5 times, sorry, and get the average in seconds. So you see that the aqPerfomance object helps you to start the measurement and count the exact result. So the average time is 2 and 7 seconds. Okay, another good feature is a column, which means time with children. Okay, let's see how it works. Okay, let's put one more function. I have a structure of the folders with some events and different time delays between it. So let's run this function. Okay, by default, TestComplete has no such column in UI, so it looks like here. And you see it's not representative, so it's hard to find the time, exact time, how the top level folder consumes. So you can do it like this. So now you can easily find the time, not the exact operations only, but whole operation inside this folder. It's can help you a lot with analyzing the results, and it's point you the most time-consuming operations. And so I'd strongly recommend to use the folder structure into your tests. TestComplete can provide you the great variety of functions and the ways to put your logic and month into your test. So like we do it with calculating the average value. And one more thing is that you can measure the CPU and memory consumption on your PC, but it's only about the log. The good thing is that you can also measure performance counters on your remote PC. How we can do it? Go to the project settings, performance counters, and you can add point here your host where you want to measure some counters, and point the counter which you want to measure. So you can see there are a lot of them. So you can monitor your database and so on. Let's see how it works for our results. You see, for every event, we have the point here, so we can analyze the time degradation quite easily. Okay, let's see now how it works in real life demo. So first of all, we need an application which we need to test and to see can we detect some time degradation for this application. What the application can do, we click on the action, and some dialogue about the work complete pops up. It consumes 2 seconds, and let's emulate the new version of this app. We do it again, and it consumes 4 seconds. Okay. Let's do some coding in TestComplete for testing the performance of this application. So I have some templates for this. What do we have? First of all, we need to create some scenario, name for this scenario. Let's call it do some work. We need to measure the time like we do it with aqPerfomance object. We need to put it in our database. We use Google Sheet for this. We get the results, the conclusion about if it's worth to create a bug or not from this database. And we just fail, test, or make it pass. Of course, we need to, in real life test, we need to launch and close the application, but let's keep this. Okay, let's put the logic which measure the time of the actions. So what we need to measure? We need to measure the time from click to the time or when we see this message. So the click and the function exits when the message pops up. We have some iterations to increase the accuracy, and we need to define the objects in TestComplete notation. And in a loop for 5 iterations, we need to start the measuring and actually do the action, get the result of one measure, and put it into an array, and after that, get average value as previously. For the 5 iterations, it's better to increase this number if you have very different results from time to time. Let's see how it works. So it clicks 5 times. We expect 2 seconds here. Yeah, it's count with milliseconds. Yeah, so we have near 2 seconds time consuming. And we have log for every operations. it's quite useful when you try to understand where the time on which operations consumes more. Okay, now what we need is to work with our database. Let's see how we do this. Okay, we have Google Sheets. The first column for average time, the second column for the date of the measurement. And also we have the baseline value to understand the performance. It can be your previous release time. What we need from here, we need to compare this value with the last value of this column. So we will put here the list of the values one by one, and for the last one we need to compare with the baseline. We need to create some report here. You remember our intervals from good, acceptable, need attention, and bad results. And we need to put some logic to understand if it's worth to create a bug or not. Now you see, instead of results, we have some average time. It's actually the header of the value because we have no value here. Let's put it something like this to demo. Okay, now you see the logic is clear. So yeah, we have the time degradation from 1 second to 2 seconds, but we think that it's not critical for users because it's not it fits their expectations. So it's not good that we have degradation, but we have such rule that if you move from green to acceptable, we do not create a bug because we have much more, we need to pay attention only to move not acceptable things. So let's do it like this. So this in this interval, the time is from 4 to 9 seconds. And yeah, you see it was 2 seconds, now it's 6 seconds. So we failed the test. Okay, now we need to understand how to put our value here. For this, we use embedded web service engine of Google Sheets, tools, script editor, and you see it's an editor for JavaScript language. So you can put some logic of your web service here and deploy it. So what do we have? For the, we need to actually two actions. One is post data in our database, and the second one, get the result. So the result will be it's failed or not. Okay. For this, we analyze the parameters and put quite simple logic just to get this column and put the result, increase it by 1. So we need to put result in the cell of the last cell plus 1. So that's it. To deploy your web service, you need to create it like here. So for the testing purposes, let's put it for anyone has access to this web service, but after that you can, of course, create your some restrictions. So here are the execution link we needed in TestComplete to make the requests against this URL. So why we also so like Google Sheets, because it can easily add some charts, summary reports, and you can even publish your charts or some parts of your document in a web or in a Confluence, so you can easily share the results. Okay, let's continue. So let's put the base URL here. So what do we need next? We need to create function to put the results and the function to get the results. It will be quite easy because in TestComplete there is a functions to for post the request and for get the request. Let's create the final URL for the update database. It's so put the value for the base URL. We add parameters like scenario name and the average time. We send this request, and for getting the result, we send only this scenario name and send the request and return the result. Is it failed or not? So let's do it over our application. Okay, now you see where we have 5 iterations. The result is almost 2 seconds. Let's see how it's displayed. Okay, now it passed. You see, we add the data here. It's added to the existing one. So we have a historical data of all the executions. And the final results, the test is passed. So let's do the same test against the new version of our application. So we emulated with this checkbox, and we run the test again. You can see it's a bit slower. Of course, after creating such simple tests, you can improve your scripts with put some more logic here, and again create the whole suite for regression testing, which covers a lot of critical scenarios which demands your attention. So what do we have? We have test failed. And what do we have in our database? Okay, in Google Sheets we have 4 seconds. So it's it seems it's quite precise results. It seems it's represented quite easily to understand. Of course, I also suggest not to put it in milliseconds. It's quite hard to understand for the people. Maybe it's a good idea to put it in seconds also. But again, it's not the time of this in this presentation to increase the quality of the our tests. So let's put it like here. Okay, I think that's all what I want to share with you. Of course, if you have any questions, I will be glad to answer you in any appropriate ways, maybe even on our community where I will be glad to see you and answer your questions. Thank you.